Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, this is my first public speech since we won the elections in February 3rd. And some people back home said, why do you choose the Heritage Foundation to make your first public speech? And I would say the things that the president of the Heritage Foundation just told me. This is the most influential think tank in the world right now. And El Salvador needs the support of the most influential think tank in the world. So that's why we're here. And since we always say that in February 3rd, El Salvador turned the page in the post-war era. And that's something some people say, how do you eat that? I mean, what does that mean? Everybody knows El Salvador had a war, a civil war. A 12-year-old civil war started in the 80s. It ended up in January 16, 1992, with the sign of the peace accords. But actually, we ended the war formally, but we never ended the war really. After the peace accords, the two sides of the war, one represented by Arena, and the other one represented by the former guerrilla, which then became a party, the FMLN, they continued to run the country for 27 years. They still run the country. Right now, we have in government, we have the former guerrilla in government. They will continue to rule the country till January 1st. So the real thing is that the international community forgot about El Salvador and said, okay, El Salvador signed their peace accords, they're fine now, let's go somewhere else where they need us. But the fact was that El Salvador was still living in the post-war. And everything that affected us in the war, all of the discussions that became into what we know of as a civil war are still there. The two sides, the same old discussions, the same old ideological divides. So the country needed to move forward. And one step to move forward was to end up this two-side regime, which is the same two sides that fought our civil war. So in February 3rd, El Salvador decided decisively to turn the page of the post-war era. We won by, not by double digits, but by double digits. It's more than 20 points from the second place. We won in the 14 departments of El Salvador. We won in the 14 cabeceras, which is like the 14 capitals of the states here. We won in 14 of them. Out of the 60 main cities, we won in 59. We won in all groups. We won in women, men, young, old, rural, urban, rich, poor. We even won the kids election. Really? By 61%. It's not official, but it gives you a thermometer of the future. And we won the international vote. Salvadorans voted for us 80%. 80% of Salvadorans that voted, living abroad, voted for us. And we won to all of the other parties combined. If you add up all of the other parties, they will stay way shorter than what we achieved on February 3rd. But the reality is that we got a big win. But at the same time, there's still a lot of power in the two sides that made the Civil War. They still control the National Assembly. They still control many of the institutions that make our government work. And that's the way a democracy works. But at the same time, this is one of the challenges we'll have to face if we want to move the country forward and we want to really turn the page of the post-war era. Now, there's something very important, and that's why we're here. El Salvador's relationship with the United States has eroded in the last 10 years. By matters of ideology or by matters of lack of pragmatism, we just forgot that we have a third of our population in the United States, that we use the US currency as our own currency, that 80% of our exports come to the United States, and that 80% of our imports come from the United States. So we weren't making the right decisions. Now we want to make the right decisions, and we want to improve our relationship with the United States as best as we can. How? Someone will say. And actually, we have so much in common. We want the same things that most Americans want. We think 90% alike of what American thinks. And if you see, we endure things like free enterprise, limited government. We like freedom of speech. We like democracy. Actually, if it wasn't a democracy, we wouldn't be here. And it was because of a great international observancy of the elections that we didn't have a widespread fraud that would have prevented us from winning. So now the challenges that we face can be solved with the same recipe that were solved here in the United States. I've always said that Washington is my favorite city in the United States. And it's not because it's the most beautiful or the one with less traffic, but just because of the fact of the vision when it was built. When Washington was built, the US was a poor country. And they built this huge, beautiful city as their capital. So they will impress foreign dignitaries. The wisdom of doing that is not by doing that itself, but by the vision of what they wanted to achieve. Probably in 50 years, probably in 100 years, but they were sure they will be a world power someday. When we go back, probably it wasn't a popular decision, but when we look back, we will see it was the correct decision. And right now, the United States is the most powerful country in the world. So it was a vision that turned into reality. Now, our vision is not to be a superpower. We're too small. But our vision is to have opportunities, is to have security, is to disappear poverty, is to be an example for other third world countries that things can be better when you unite and you use common sense to build a policy. So we want to look towards the future. And like I say to some government officials we have been having meetings with, we just had a meeting with the president of Mexico. When they ask us, what do you need? We can send you aid. How much aid do you need? Or are you expecting us to increase our aid? And I said, no, we're not expecting you to increase your aid. If you actually want to end it, we're fine with it. We don't want to be aid. We don't want to be aided. We want to do business with you. If the U.S. will buy 1% of the coffee it consumes, we will not be able to grow so much coffee for that demand. If the United States will buy 1% of its sugar to us, we will not be able to produce so much sugar. So the reality is that the U.S. can send us $1 billion in aid, but that won't make a real difference. But if the United States starts doing business with us, that will really make a real difference that is solid and that will create real jobs. Now, Salvadorans are very, very hardworking people. And of course, any president of any country could come here and say the same thing, right? But this is true. Salvadorans are very, very hardworking people. So when we speak about immigration, for example, we have a common ground. You could, when you talk to somebody, or when you try to make a deal with somebody, you could you could focus on your differences, or you can focus on the common ground. If you focus on your differences, you will fight. If you focus on your common ground, on the common ground, then you'll find solutions. Now we have common ground. We know the origin of immigration is lack of opportunity and violence in our countries. That's the origin of 90% of our immigration. The rest is professional immigration or investment immigration. But the 95% of our immigration is violence and lack of opportunity in our countries. I say our countries because I include Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. So what's the solution? You could do 1,000 counter-immigration programs, and none of them will work as developing opportunities and security in the countries where immigration originates. Why would somebody flee his home? Why? He has everything. His family, his language, his habitat, the country he knows. Why would he flee? Cross through three frontiers, a desert, possibility of being kidnapped, killed, raped, and then for the possibility of crossing a border with no papers and trying to find a job, an underpaid job, maybe two, maybe three jobs. Why? Does it make sense? Only if it's the only opportunity, if it's the only choice. So that shouldn't be the only choice. Now, what if we provide opportunities back home? Someone will say, yeah, that sounds nice, but how would you do it, right? Well, it's actually easy if you understand how the economy works. The real investment is private investment, but private investment has to be lured. And the way the private investment can be lured is by setting the right rules, the security that those rules are not going to be changed, building the basic infrastructure, limit the government to what the government should do, end corruption, and promote your country. And we're starting to do that even before we're sworn in. So we're planting the seeds now. So when we start the government, we kind of start to reap what we saw. Now, some countries would come to the United States and ask for handouts. But a handout is like giving a drug addict money. He will go out and buy drugs. We don't want any handouts. Actually, we're ready to refuse aid if we will jumpstart commerce. We do want to do business with the United States. Our greatest and most powerful ally, at the country where a third of our population lives, a country that shares so much with us, and a country we're so close, it's actually easier to come from El Salvador to Miami than from New York to California. So we hope for a new era, not only in El Salvador, but in our relationship with the United States. Some people have said, oh, but the current administration has said some bad things about your country. And I would say, the best way to answer is not getting into a fight with your greatest ally. The best way to answer is to make your country better. So then the speech will change. Because when we get mad at somebody criticizing us, we're not looking to ourselves. I mean, we're not looking back to our country and say we should start criticizing our country ourselves so we can better. Nobody can get better at something if they don't accept they're doing things the wrong way. So we want to start to do the things the right way. And I'm sure, as President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said in Mexico, the only way we'll stop immigration is if we create opportunities. And he said he is committed to end immigration before his 6 year term. So I would say that we are committed to stop immigration before our 5 year term ends. I haven't said that before. And I will say something that is also new. We're committed to stop 100% of the drug trafficking that comes through El Salvador to the United States. We already have a plan, and we will make that plan work, and we will show the rest of the countries that if you put your will into something, if you put your resources into something, if you use common sense, and if you stop corruption, things can be done fast, and you can become an example for the other countries to do the same. So then we become a real partner, a small one, but a real one. So if we're a partner, we want to be treated as a partner, and more than a partner, as a friend. We're friends with the United States, and we expect the same from the United States to us. We're going to end immigration, forceful immigration, and we expect the United States to help. Not because they're going to send us aid, but because it's a common interest. We want our talents to stay in El Salvador, and we want some of the talents to come back to El Salvador. You know how much a Salvadoran immigrant stays without a job? The Salvadoran immigrant stays without a job in the United States? The amount of time? 12 hours. That's World Bank info. The average Salvadoran family earns $80,000 a year in the United States. Why? Because they're hardworking. They can work 2, 3 jobs. We want them people back. But we want to establish more trade. We want the U.S. to buy our products. We will buy their products too. We can be small, and we cannot small dent in the U.S. economy, but we could be an example of the relationship that the U.S. could have with other countries, and how a small country, which is in the third world, some say is a developing country, some will say it's not developing. But the real thing is that we could show that El Salvador, with how it seems right now, it could be totally changed. If you turn on TV, if they're talking about El Salvador, they will be talking about gangs, violence, caravans, corruption. In 2 years from now, you will put the TV on, you will see El Salvador, they will talk about surf, tourism, jobs, economic growth, a partner and an ally of the United States. So perception will change because reality will have changed. Now, I think it's in the common interest of everybody, And we have shared this with U.S. officials of the current administration, but also with senators, with Congress people. And they have all the same goals. So why not take advantage of having the same goals? Actually, not achieving this will be a huge failure for us. So we have to achieve it. And like I said, just a couple of minutes ago before entering here, I said, when I'm out of office, I'll be 42. I don't know what I do then. I cannot run for anything, and I don't know. I don't want to write a book. So, but I would want, I would, but I would want, what I would want to do is to look back and see those 5 years I was in office as the years that El Salvador changed and put the country in the right path. It sounds impossible, but it's not. And with the help of God, with the help of our allies, and with the help of all Salvadorans, even the ones in the opposition, especially the ones in the opposition, I'm sure we can make El Salvador an example for the world. Thank you very much, and I'm willing to answer some questions.
Thank you.
She's
so
the
much.
boss.
Thank you so much for the remarks. And thank you so much for the new announcements and the new commitments. Hold on, I think I'm a little too close to your microphone. Let me walk away. On countering corruption, immigration, and economic development. I mean, these are issues that have broad bipartisan support. So I'm sure everybody in the audience and everybody watching online pretty very much enjoyed them. So we have about 20-ish minutes for question and answers. Please, if when I call on you, if you could state your name, the organization you are affiliated with, and please keep your question in question form. The only person making remarks today is the president-elect. So let's see, the gentleman right here with the red tie. And also please wait for the microphone to come to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Bosco Martí, Executive Director for Mexico and Dominican Republic at the Inter-American Development Bank. You just visited Mexico. You had a great meeting with President López Obrador, and you have both envisioned that as a priority of domestic and foreign affairs to address these root causes of migration. So migration is not a necessity, but rather a decision. How do you envision this partnership with Mexico and your neighbors, and what role you think that the international financial organizations such as the IDB or the World Bank can play a role in this? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think the biggest shame a country can have is having its own population fleeing. So when we see migration, we see it as somewhat like a normal thing, and the U.S. should take all the people that are fleeing our country. But the fact is that we should be ashamed of that. I mean, why people are fleeing our country? People should be proud to be in our country, to find opportunities there, to not be threatened that they will be killed if they stayed. So I think President Obrador and I, we both share that we cannot allow this to happen anymore. And of course it will be a process, but we want to be a fast process. And we want to end immigration. I mean the forceful immigration, of course, was just 90% of it. We cannot allow our countries, in a huge, rich country like Mexico, for example, cannot allow its population to be fleeing because of lack of a job. So we will invest in several issues for creating jobs in the rural areas in the south of Mexico, in Guatemala, in Honduras, in El Salvador. We will invest in education, in safety, in lower the crime rate, in lower drug trafficking. We'll invest in infrastructure, in productive infrastructure like railroads and ports and bridges and schools, things that will have a return, economic return or social return, We'll invest in energy projects, and we'll invest in the areas that investment has been neglected for the last 30, 40, or 50 years. So we're very confident that if we, why together? We could do it separately, right? But if we want to achieve real results, we have to fix the four countries. Now I can speak for El Salvador, and I can only speak for El Salvador. I can only speak a little of Mexico because I just spoke with the president. But the fact is that we have to change the way we're thinking about immigration. I think we have to stop looking if it's someone else's fault. It's our fault, and it's something that we have to fix, and it's something that we can fix. And the IDB or the IMF and the World Bank or any development bank, they're eager to invest in this. They want to do it. They have studies over studies. Information is everywhere. We have all of the information we need. The capital is there. The human capital is also there. The land is there. The common sense is there. I think what we have been lacking all of these years is common sense, the political will of doing things, some vision. You don't need a huge vision, but some vision, and too much corruption. We have to tackle on corruption. If politicians are there to steal money, then we'll never get to anywhere. No money will suffice if politicians are stealing the money. But I guess I've always said the money will suffice if no one is stealing.
And let me jump in here really quick and take moderator's prerogative. How do you plan on stopping politicians in El Salvador from not stealing money? How do you think that can be done?
I would say I will steal these words from President Obrador. When you clean the stairs, you clean them from the top down, not from the bottom up. So we'll start by the president not stealing. Then we'll go on for our cabinet members not stealing. I cannot put my hands on fire for the 3,000 confidence positions that we have to fill in the government, but I can put my hands on the fire for the people that we're going to put that will check that nobody is stealing, and if someone is, we'll bring him to the authorities, and we'll send all the documents and all the proofs and let the authorities do their job. But we're not going to let people steal in the government, and we're going to put our own agency inside the government, and we're also calling for an international commission to help us in fighting corruption.
Let's move really quickly to the right side of the auditorium. My right, your left. Apparently red is a very popular color for ties today. The gentleman here in the front.
I'm brought up.
Thank you. I'm Dan Erickson with Blue Star Strategies. Congratulations on your election. Thank you for being here today. I hope you do change your mind about writing a book as well. I want to ask a question. It's meant to be a friendly question, but maybe it's a tough one. I don't know. The previous government, or the outgoing government, changed relations with Taiwan in favor of China. And I would like to know how you're thinking about the China question. Would your government think of reversing that decision and going back towards diplomatic relations with Taiwan, or how do you see that evolving in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. That decision hasn't been. That decision hasn't been taken. But we have spoke about that. We just had a meeting about it. China is not playing by the rules. They don't respect the rules. They don't respect the rules of commerce. They go in, they do projects that are not feasible. Then they left the countries with huge loans they cannot repay, and that they use that as leverage. They manipulate the currency, and then they want you to respect their manipulation of the currency. They are not a democracy, which, I mean, there's not the only not democracy in the world, but they meddle into your democracy. So we want to be friends with China, but China has to be friends with us. And we don't mean money or investment, but respect. So what we are studying right now is that we want a relationship with China if it's based on respect. But right now, we haven't seen that from them. So we're starting that decision. I know it hasn't happened in the last 30 years. No country has turned away in their relationship with China, with the second biggest economy in the world. And they say, in the meeting that we had earlier, they say, like, you need a little courage to stand to China. But the fact is that we're not standing to China. We're just demanding respect. And if they respect us, we can have a relationship with them. If they don't respect us, we cannot have a relationship with them, even if they are the second biggest economy in the world.
Now over to this side of the room, gentleman in the yellow tie, please.
President-elect Steve Johnson from the International Republican Institute. I actually, my wife and my two boys lived in El Salvador some years ago, and we can remember in the 1980s and the 1990s that El Salvador was the economic engine of Central America. And you mentioned jump-starting the economy with increased trade with the United States, but part of that involves building capacity within your own country and recuperating the manufacturing and the innovation and the creativity that your country once had. As a businessman yourself, how would you do that?
By letting the people that can do it, do it. One thing that governments tend to get confused is to thinking that they can create all that creativity and productivity, and they can't, just because of the fact that the way the government works. Government is supposed to facilitate that people have their own creativity and ingenuity, and they jumpstart the economy. For example, right now, we have in a bottleneck almost $10 billion in investment in El Salvador. So we just have to remove the bottleneck, and $10 billion will flow. Right now, OPEC, which we have a meeting on Friday, has pledged to invest $5.8 billion in the three countries of the Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. So you get a chunk of it. 1 billion, 2 billion, it depends on your project. It depends on the projects of the private sector that want to invest in El Salvador. So these are loans for the private sector, not for the government. So government must provide some things. For example, we want to promote surfing. We have one of the best surfing beaches in the world, but we don't have the infrastructure. So hotel chains cannot go because they don't have sanitation of water, they don't have good roads, they don't have good electricity. But we already have the most difficult things to have, which are the waves. To build a road, some of the power line, and the water sewage, I mean, that should be common sense. We can do that. And let the hotels and let the restaurants and the surf shops and the diving shops, let them have their own creativity to put their businesses there and grow and fight for the clients, and let the business sector do what the business sector does, which is grow the economy, hire people, invest more if they do good, do good things and try to be more creative so that they get the clients that they want to get. And now in an international market, 1% of the international market is more than El Salvador's capacity. So of course it will be a success. So if anybody wants to invest in surfing, hotels, or anything, we will have a boom in tourism. And of course it will require some government investment, like everything, police, security, but we'll do that. And at the end of the time, I'm sure that tourism will be a booming industry in El Salvador. And a couple of years from now, you will start saying again that El Salvador is the motor of Central America.
We have a microphone in the back, the gentleman in the back with the suit, glasses right there, who's been very patiently waiting.
Thank you very much. Alexander Kravitz from Insight. Thank you for your remarks, Mr. President-elect. As As a Salvadoran, I want to congratulate you on your remarkable, indeed historic electoral win. And I think that even Salvadorans that did not support you in the election, you have generated great hope and expectations that you will be able to move El Salvador in a new direction, as you said, and all support you in that. I have two questions, one about El Salvador, one about your visit here.
We
Are you
only
going to
have
be
time for one question, just to be considerate of the audience. One question.
So I'll go to the second question about El Salvador. Would you be willing to consider naming former government officials or former officials from Arena or FMLN administrations to your new cabinet? Thank you.
More than that, I think it's important that if we want to turn the page in the post-war era, we have to turn the page. We have to start turning the page ourselves. So if we start to fight with our former electoral adversaries, then we're not giving the example. So on Monday, on Monday, I'm meeting with the president of Arena to find some common ground in the National Assembly. I bet we have 100 things we don't agree on, but I bet we have 200 things we do agree on. So let's keep the 100 things we don't agree on for later, and let's approve the 200 things we agree on Monday. So right now we haven't taken decisions of the cabinet, but of course there's capable people in the right and the left. And for us, I think we transcend, our movement transcends ideology. I mean, I don't consider myself of the right or the left. I just think, if you ask your kids, do they consider to be on the right or on the left, they will say that. I don't care. So they want pragmatism, they want solutions. I mean, fighting against corruption, is it from the right or the left? I mean, it's just common sense. You have to stop politicians from stealing money. Investing is from the right or the left. Everybody wants investment, private investment. It's on the right or the left. Well, we could say right if you consider the left like communism, right? But is it liberal or progressive or conservative? I mean, everybody wants in private investment. So we really want to focus on the things that we share and not focus on the things that we disagree. And of course, there's very capable people in the right, and there's capable people in the left, there's capable people in the center, and there's capable people that have never been in politics because they have never trusted politics. But now they're beginning to try and trust and be confident that our country can improve and be better. So of course, all on board. If there's good people that want to serve their country, jump in.
So you're collecting job applications on the way out, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just making sure. We have a gentleman here.
They are not very well paid, though.
No.
And they're not allowed to steal. So it's a kind of a sacrifice, but you're allowed to sacrifice.
There you go. I think the gentleman right over here. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations on an amazing victory. Those that didn't believe now are believers. But I have a question for you.
Can we have your name and your
Yes,
organization?
my name is
Thank
Mario
you.
Velasquez. I'm a senior consultant with the Southwest Voter Registration and Education Project in the Southwest of the U.S. So my question is about impunity. I haven't heard you speak about impunity, but I assuming with everything else you said, impunity is included. So I want to hear from you, Mr. President-elect, that you will be firm and uncompromising when it comes to acts of impunity that we have seen from the right and we have seen from the left in El Salvador, cases like Jose Luis Merino, who act in complete impunity on many aspects of the economy.
I think that history has shown us that corruption is on the left and on the right. We have seen these examples in the 20 years Arena governed, and we have seen the same examples in the 10 years FMLN governed. We will not tolerate impunity. And that's a firm answer. We'll not tolerate impunity, we'll not tolerate corruption. And we are so committed to that we are calling for an international commission to help us do it. Why? Because an international commission is at a lesser risk to be corrupted than a national one. Because they come from another place. They didn't have connections in in our country, and they have a clear mandate and legitimacy. So we're calling for an international anti-corruption and anti-impunity commission to come to El Salvador, and of course we're not going to protect anybody. And not you mentioned names from one party, but if it's from our party, it's the same. No corruption and no impunity, no matter where it comes from.
We have a gentleman in the back right here with a pink tie who's been waiting very anxiously. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. President-elect, on a very historic and unprecedented break of the bipartisanship in El Salvador. I have a question. My name is Saul Diaz. I am a radiation therapist at Mary Washington Healthcare. And my question to you comes from the comment that you made that Salvadorans are one of the most hardworking people that you know. And I could not agree more on that statement. My question to you is, what will your administration be doing to try to attract all the talent that has unfortunately left the nation in terms of coming back and contributing to the economy and the society itself? I left the country due to the lack of opportunity my family and I did when I was a child. And through all adversity, I have fought very hard, and I am now a professional in the healthcare industry. So I am very interested to know your position on what your administration will be doing to give an incentive to all the professionals that are around the world that would want to come back to the country and contribute. Thank you.
2 years ago, the government was doing some things that were not good. And some people in the opposition started calling for young people to come out to the streets and stop that. Nobody showed up. Crowds were 10, 15, 20 people. That's not even a crowd. And politicians and analysts in TV started asking, why the young people don't come out? They should go out. And I said, young people will go out when they are inspired. They will not go out when they are to be used. So when we won the elections, a lot of tens of thousands of young people get out. I said, see, they are inspired now. So the way of attracting people is not by giving a subsidy or guaranteeing a job, because they already have one here and probably better paid, but try to inspire them to do something good for their country. I've spoken with thousands of Salvadorans living here in Washington, in the DMV area, in California, in Boston, in New York. And they've told me different stories. Like, I want to put my business over there, but I'm afraid I will be rented by the Maras. Or I want to go back there, but I don't know if I find a job. Or I want to retire there because my retirement will give me more for my buck in El Salvador than it gives me here. But I'm afraid of what I will find over there. And I've heard also, I'll go back there when you win. I'll go back there when you're sworn in. I will go back there when I start see the changes that you're promising. So the fact is that one thing brings the other, like the chicken and the egg. But the real thing is that what can make that happen is inspiring people. And I bet not only Salvadorans will go, but also people from all over the world. Because when you see something that is inspiring, a thing that you can build, a thing that you can be part of that history, you will be eager to do it, even if you sacrifice a couple of bucks. But you will see that you're doing something important. And a lot of people want to do something important in their lives. I mean, I could stay as a businessman. I could earn more money than the president's salary. But the fact is that I wanted to do a change. Our ministers are not getting overpaid like they were getting in the previous government, in the actual government. So their salaries are not that high, but I bet there's thousands of people that want to do that job because they want to change their country. So I'm sure that in the 3 million Salvadorans living abroad, if we find 5%, that's 150,000 people, 150,000 talents, 150,000 100,000 hardworking people with a dream and with hope that they can rebuild our country and make it an example in the world.
All right, we have time for one more question just to keep things running on time today. And I'm trying to think who are the hands that have been up for a while. The gentleman there in the pink tie. Yes, the woman has the voice. Yeah. You chose only.
Thank you.
I really? Yeah. I am so sorry. I did not mean to do that on purpose. So, sir, I'm so sorry.
Very
Thank
well.
you very much for. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, right here, yes. Thank you. Let's do that. Okay, we'll have her ask a question, and then we can do that afterwards just to keep things on time. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Alessandra Clara, and I'm a consultant on corporate social responsibility, and I have a master's in social entrepreneurship. So it's all about measuring the impact that businesses have in society. And my question, and first and foremost, I'm Salvadorian, and I voted for you, so I'm very hopeful. So I really want to ask, what do you think the role of the private sector will have in your administration, and what are you doing to build partnerships with that? Thanks.
What does an investor want? Returns, security, rules not to be changed after he makes his investment, and the ability to get his money in and out whenever he wants. And a common sense market. I mean, if he sells shoes, he wants people that buy shoes, right? That's very easy to provide. And right now we live in a world where, for example, Central America, Nicaragua is in such troubles. They lost 40,000 jobs. They just lost 40,000 jobs. Guatemala is in a political turmoil. Also Honduras. If I wanted to invest in Central America, I would invest in El Salvador. And if we have the right rules, people are confident that we're not changing them, we increase our security, our physical security, and we change the topic of the conversation. Because right now, conversation is caravans, is immigration, maras. But if we change the topic of conversation to positive things, even in those issues, I mean, we can talk about those issues, but in a positive way, because things are changing through the positive things. I'm sure, and this, I mean, mark my words, I'm sure we will have a boom in private investment in El Salvador in the next months, just by showing our willingness to work with them and our acceptance of the importance of private sector investment.
See, since I was told I have not called on enough ladies, and I deeply apologize for that because I was not on purpose. We're going to call on one more lady, and just to and we're going to take things a few minutes over, but I hope that's okay with you. I think we've seen, yep, right here in the front with the blazer. Thank you. And she will be our final question for today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Rocio Treminio. I'm the mayor of the town of Brentwood. But my question is, you have explained a lot of investment, and I would like to know, what is the focus? What is the industry focus that you want to have? What is the administration is going to, what are the sectors that you're planning to bring to El Salvador?
All of them.
Okay.
You know, when we were campaigning, we did some promises of big projects, an airport, expanding the port, both of our ports, a railroad. And people were saying, we don't have money for those types of projects. They're too big, and we need other things. And I say, imagine an island, right? You have an island, a desertic island. We just found an island. And we said, let's build a country in that island. That island has enough land and natural resources to build a country. Okay, now there you have $10 billion to build the country. And you have 200,000 people to build your country with 200,000 people and $10 billion. What you will do? What's the first thing you would do? A port, right? And then what you do? An airport. And then a government center, and roads, and a hospital, and schools. And then a power plant. And an area for industry, agriculture, tourism. You find the best beaches, and you do the tourism over there. And then you start building an economy and a country in an island that works. The other way is the way that was proposed by our electoral adversaries. Spend the 10 billion. Start giving free food, free things, handouts. The next year you will have 9 billion. And you continue to do that. In 10 years you have nothing. You will have no port, no airport, no roads, no schools, no hospitals, no government center, no tourism area, no agriculture, no industry, no jobs, and people will expect the handouts where there's no more money, like in Venezuela. So there's no more money to give. So what will happen? The country is in bankruptcy. So what we're going to do in El Salvador is do the right thing. Of course, the example I just did is an small example. You have to scale. But what we're going to do is the common sense thing. We need a railroad. It's ridiculous to go from La Union to Huachapan. You take 8 hours. I mean, you should take 1.5 or 2. So we will build the things necessary for a country to work, and the investment will flow. Who said this? Kevin Costner? Build it and they will come? Yeah, we'll build it, they will come. Okay, the founder of Wendy's then.
I'm pretty sure that's the first time at a heritage event where we're closing on either a Kevin Costner or a Wendy's founder quote. But with that, sir, on behalf of the Heritage Foundation, we deeply appreciate you coming here and delivering your remarks. I mean, I can tell you this, I've been at Heritage about 5 years. This is the largest crowd I have seen because we also have an overflow room downstairs, and we have thousands of people watching online. So if everybody in the audience can please join me in thanking the President-elect for this fantastic event.
If everybody can stay quiet for a few minutes so we can record.
You want to do it outside or right here?
Here is fine, yeah, because the system's connected.
Right here?
Okay, so we just need everybody to be quiet then. So then how about everybody take a seat and let's be quiet for 2-3 minutes so he can do that, if you guys don't mind? Awesome, thank you. There you go. So just, he'll deliver 2-3 minute remark in Spanish and then just go.
Las dos cosas vienen de la mano. En El Salvador hemos tenido, según cálculos no míos, pero según cálculos que están ahí, incluso en libros y en escritos y en estudios, en El Salvador solo en el tiempo de Arena se perdieron del Estado en malversaciones, robos, etcétera, más de 37.000 millones de dólares. 37.000 millones. Si le sumamos los 10 años del FMLN, no pudiera cuantificarlo porque no hay nadie que ha hecho un estudio, pero imagino que serán otros cuantos miles de millones más. Según el plan El Salvador Seguro, se necesitan 1.000 millones de dólares para poder asegurar El Salvador. Eso es 40 veces menos de lo que se han robado los corruptos. Entonces, no es que nuestro país no tenga dinero para combatir el crimen, es que nuestro país, el dinero que teníamos para combatir el crimen se lo robaron. Ahora no vamos a llorar sobre la leche derramada, pero el ingreso sigue estando ahí y pues ahora podemos poner el dinero de la gente, trabajar para la gente y combatir la criminalidad en 3 formas. La primera es con la prevención, compitiéndole a los jóvenes en las pandillas, para que los jóvenes tengan una oportunidad mejor que entrar a la pandilla. El ingreso promedio mensual de un pandillero es de $300 al mes. No es difícil para el Estado mejorar eso. Nosotros podemos hacer oportunidades para que nuestros programas de deporte, de cultura, de arte, de becas, de educación, de empleo, etcétera, de oportunidades, de poner una empresa, sean mucho más atractivas que entrar a una pandilla que los maten. La segunda es combate a la delincuencia y para eso necesitamos más recursos para la policía y sobre todo el uso de tecnología. Al día de hoy ni siquiera tenemos un laboratorio forense. Ahora vamos a invertir realmente en combatir la delincuencia de una manera inteligente. Y la tercera es la reinserción. Tenemos cárceles que son universidades del crimen en lugar de ser centros de rehabilitación. Necesitamos que sean centros de rehabilitación, no solo porque es lo correctamente humano para hacer, sino porque son la gente que tiene penas de 5 o 10 años y ahí ya van 9. En un año van a salir inexorablemente, queramos o no. Entonces es mejor que salgan con una actividad, que salgan graduados de algo positivo y no que salgan graduados de delincuentes como están siendo graduados ahora.
Internacional para empezar a trabajar, mencionó una comisión internacional para comenzar a trabajar en la corrupción en El Salvador. ¿Esta comisión ya está haciendo gestiones en la OEA o por medio de qué organismo lo haría? Y segunda, ¿cómo va a empezar a votar El Salvador en temas de Nicaragua y Venezuela en la OEA?
Está fácil. Ya hemos hecho el llamado para la Comisión Internacional contra la Impunidad y la Corrupción. Lo bueno de una comisión internacional, como lo dije hace un rato, es de que quita la influencia o quita la mayor cantidad de la influencia que pueden tener los corruptos sobre la comisión, porque la comisión por su naturaleza es internacional. Y segundo, está avalada por un organismo internacional. Puede ser la ONU o la OEA, hemos hablado con ambos. Incluso el doctor Almagro de la OEA, incluso tuiteó de eso hace unos meses, está dispuesto a trabajar de la mano con la ONU, lo que sería inédito. Generalmente la OEA y la ONU no trabajan de la mano, en este caso sí están dispuestos a hacerlo. Así que pudiera ser con la ONU, pudiera ser con la OEA o pudiera ser con ambos, trabajando en conjunto. Pero definitivamente tiene que ser internacional y tiene que ser avalado por una organización respetada. En el caso de Ortega y Maduro, pueden irse despidiendo de sus aliados de El Salvador.
But just, I think, one more question for Spanish language media since the event was in English. And I will leave it up to the president for the credentialed media. So,
You pick.
I picked? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pick a woman.
A woman, yes. So, right over here. I know, so we have, female journalists, please raise your hand. Right over here. Let me see. I think we also had one to the right, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. No, it's fine, guys. Give me 30 seconds.
Right there?
Right over there with the microphone. Thank you so
Hi.
much.
Hola a todos. Represento a Así es mi gente. El tema sobre el TPS y los Dreamers es un tema muy importante. Quería que explicara cuál es el plan para que los que están aquí ya con el TPS y el Dreamer pudieran llegar a una residencia permanente aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Nosotros estamos trabajando de la mano con el gobierno de Estados Unidos. Hemos recibido delegaciones de senadores, de congresistas, de los dos lados del aisle. Estamos trabajando con los oficiales del gobierno de Estados Unidos. Yo creo que es más fácil, estoy seguro que es más fácil solicitar algo desde la posición de un amigo y de un aliado que está colaborando y no de la posición de un enemigo, como ha sido los últimos 10 años. Yo estoy seguro de que vamos a encontrar alguna solución que sea de beneficio para todos. Lo que sí tenemos que cambiar es nuestra mentalidad de pedir, pedir y pedir sin dar. Tenemos que empezar a hacer un quid pro quo. Igual que cualquier amistad, igual que cualquier relación, incluso de pareja, no se puede pedir si no se da. Entonces nosotros queremos empezar una relación con los Estados Unidos, no solo de socios y de aliados, sino de amigos. Y estoy seguro, porque así funciona la naturaleza humana, que vamos a recibir de parte de ellos un trato similar. En cuanto a los detalles, pues eso lo vamos a ver con ellos. Y sabiendo de que la única forma de llegar a un acuerdo sostenible en el tiempo y no estas parches temporales es que sea algo que tenga ganancia para ambos. Y no que sea simplemente una forma de llegar y pedir como siempre se ha hecho. Pero estoy seguro que vamos a encontrar algo que nos beneficie a todos.
Thank you all so much. We are running about 15 minutes behind schedule, but thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much.